Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to another ink profile. Today we're doing Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Brown. It's a very warm toned brown. It's pretty, and I have been learning, thanks to viewers, that actually this ink flight was made up of two different inks. The first two that we're doing are in that 4001 series, and that is not Edelstein, and I was mistaken at first about that. The rest of them, I have now checked all of the little labels, and the rest of the five are in the Edelstein line from Pelikan. So I'm beginning to clear up my knowledge a little bit, and I'm learning, and I really do appreciate the help on that. So we're doing this one, the Brilliant Brown. And let's go ahead and put it into the water test here. See how that does. And we'll take a glimpse at the last one too. We'll look at the result. So, okay, disregard where it faintly says Edelstein. So the Pelikan turquoise, the 4001 turquoise, that one is pretty typical, and it washed almost all off, but you can still faintly read it. And you may be able to see that or not, I'm not sure. So there we have it. But while our new one is marinating, we'll go ahead and look in the Rodya Gold book. This is where I start with everything. And I've got it here on our page, which is coming together nicely, right here. And then we are looking at it separately over on this page. So here it is. It's just really warm and beautiful, and really, at that price, that's a really good price, I thought. 62.5 mils for $13.80. And you can go in to try it out at a very low price point, because Anderson Pens has it 3 mil for $1.25. You can't beat that, I don't think. So I have it in the broad nib up to here, and then in the Lamy fine nib, and I found that it did really well in both of those pens. My first impressions were very favorable, and still are. It feels nice. It has a good flow, even in the fine nib, I felt like. And it shaded some, and it just was nice and warm and saturated. So I did one of my old style chromatography tests, and I was disgusted. I left it in too long, really. And then I did a different one. I did it with just by making a line and dipping it, and I stayed right there with it, holding it. And so they both kind of showed almost the same result, that we're dealing with blue, yellow, and red. And, you know, it all kind of combines. So there we have it. That it's, you know, it does show sometimes that it's either, it shows as orange and red kind of coming out of it. I don't know if you could tell from this. Yeah, I think really you can see that, how complex it seems to be. So I've got quite a few little notebooks, and also a little a little funny thing to mention about that. The new one that I've added to the line, because this is the new one that actually Sue sent, so I was ready to replace that other one, the little Mormon Nemesine notebook, but it had come in after I'd already kind of started checking out some of my ones I've had on hand longer, and I meant to clear that up the other day. So this was one sent by a pen friend, but I noticed the name is the same. So let me hold that up. Mormon. So the paper, that may be why we're having such good luck with this paper. So here's our Brilliant Brown. Oh, it really shows up nice on that. And I think we'll probably bring this one in later after we fill up this little one. I am on a streak of trying to use what I have. I think it's really, really important, and I learned that when I was trying to save money for my trip. I have a lot of stuff, and a lot of things have been donated to that I want to be able to get to and use. I loved how that looked on that paper. It goes from light to dark. It shows you all kinds of shading. Both in the writing and in the painting. And then it did not bleed through. It has some ghosting, but not enough to bother me at all. Not in the writing or on the painting. Yeah, you could take up this next page, and we will. We'll go to the next ink, which is Tanzanite next. But okay, so there's that one. Now the next one is our old trusty CVS caliber 4x6. Okay, and it came out good in here too. But I will say that when you go down into the fine nib on this paper, you feel a little drag. I didn't like that. The nib seemed to drag a little, and it didn't stay as flowy as it was in other papers. So I would kind of eliminate, I wouldn't want to use my fine nib with this CVS paper. But it was fine in the broad nib. It really was. Now it bled through just a little where it was painted on, or it seeped through, I guess you could call it. And it does that sometimes, but not always. Okay, and then I did write again in my larger journal. This is the Cafe Note by Nanami Paper Company. It's the B6 Slim. And I liked how it looked in here very much. I was seeing shading that I really appreciated. I'm not sure if this camera will be able to pick it up for you, but tops of letters and things like that. And these are some goals I have for, you know, trying to continue to improve my health. And then up here, I just used the broad nib to fill in my new stencil that I've got a larger stencil now. And I don't see any significant bleed through, but a lot of ghosting there on this back page, which you get. This is Tomoe River paper, and it feels to be the 52 GSM. It didn't actually say on it, so I'm not sure. Okay, and then this is the Leuchtturm 1917. I check all of the inks that I test. I like to check on here for bullet journaling. It gives me a good idea whether I can count on it in my bullet journal. So here it is in the broad nib and in the fine nib. And it was very, very pleasing to write with on this paper. Only a tiny bit of bleed through where I painted it on, and that's not the kind of thing I would normally do in that bullet journal. So, okay. And then last but not least, the Live Notes by Pen Gallery. This is 68 GSM paper. And I like to do this last so we can then compare with the 52 gram paper. Here it is, and one of the things I noticed is that, might as well go ahead and pull that 52 gram sample. See, what often happens to me is I don't like it as much when it's painted on, but it doesn't bleed through. However, on the 52 gram it does. It does bleed through, so there's that big advantage that you can use it and not have it bleed through. If you're an artist, you can actually paint with the fountain pen inks and have less bleed through, although the turquoise did come through. Probably I put it on real heavy. It was a nice experience in the broad nib and in the fine nib. I made a note that I preferred this ink on the 52 GSM Tomoe River. That you guys have heard that before though. So let's leap right into the paper samples. Here's the Tomoe River paper 52 gram that we've been looking at. This is white, and I thought it looked particularly nice on that. Very, very nice. There's some shading. Tops of letters is where I'm seeing it. And it's just a nice warm brown. And like I said, when you paint it on, you are going to get bleed through. And you're going to get, you know, kind of ghosting or show through, but we know we're going to get that on the thinner paper especially. Okay, Clairefontaine 90 gram French ruled. Looks good on here, I thought. Very good. Broad nib here, fine nib here, and then you know, you get some interest there, and you get no bleed through with this ink on the Clairefontaine. Very, very nice, smooth, and of course the ink sits on top of that paper better, and it's good. Okay, here's Rodya Dot Pad 80 gram white paper. Whoops. Kind of looks lighter. You know, I like how it came out better on the Clairefontaine as far as the painted on part, which is not always what I do, but I do like to see that. It gives me a great chance to look at the color. So here it is, broad nib and fine nib, and I wrote good, so that means it was holding up. Whoops, oh, I need to be centered. Sorry about that. It was holding up well in the Lamy fine nib on the Rodya. That's very good. Okay, and then for our cheaper copy paper, Georgia Pacific 20-pound copy paper. I don't know if you can get any cheaper than that. It feathered, well, both nibs it feathered some, but it was more noticeable in the broad nib, obviously, and I think you could get away with a Lamy fine nib on this. There was some bleed through with the broad nib, not desperately bad or anything, but you can see it, and it did bleed through painted on. That didn't surprise me. But up here, there was some bleed through. So, let's check in on our water test, and then we're going to look at a couple of comparison panels. Okay, it's acting a lot like the other one did, like the 4001 turquoise. It's, you know, I can still read it faintly, but it's acting very typical, so that's interesting. Okay, let's see. The first panel I'm going to get is right here. A lot of browns that I put on here, and there's a lot of variety. And then here's our ink of the day. This is the Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Brown. And I'm going to try to lay it over cappuccino because we're a long way from that ink, and we're closer to some of these others, especially the Tasha ink. So we'll see if that'll work, at least for our purposes today. Okay, so I thought there was quite a bit of similarities between the Pelikan Brilliant Brown and Tasha T, I think is what that means. It has that complexity leaning toward orange and red like that. That was cool. And then even, you know, Diamine Ochre is quite a bit lighter, and it doesn't have that reddish orange as well. It has the orange, but doesn't have the red as much. So, but it's good for you to have a chance to see how they compare, because one of these may be leaning toward what you like better. Oh, I remember this Tasha Golden Wheat as a beautiful ink. I loved that. In fact, you know, this ink here, it's pretty, the Brilliant Brown, but it isn't something that tempts me to buy a bottle of, probably because I've got lots of samples in the ballpark, and some of these that are on here are so far away from it, but that also gives you, if you're familiar with them, it'll still give you a chance to see, like down here in the middle bottom, Robert Oster Cafe Crema is just a lot more golden and lighter, and it just looks so different. And then your Monteverde Scotch Brown is just much more brown, straight up brown, and so if that interests you, there's one for you. And then, oh, here's Pelikan Edelstein Smoky Quartz, which is just nowhere. You just really can't compare these two. But again, it might be more your cup of tea. You never know. Okay, so I've got one more panel that may have quite a bit of repetition. But, okay, I remember why I did this one. I really wanted you to see it next to SBRE Brown, which is right here. Okay, we just got a real good look at the Golden Wheat, so I'll cover that one. And put, this is today's ink right in the middle. So I'm not seeing anything on this panel that, you know, just really compares, other than a little bit with Sitz Krusnock Chestnut Brown. You know, it's not at all in the same ballpark though, really. It just gives a, it still gives kind of a warmness, but not all that orangish red that our Brilliant Brown does. And then this gives you a good chance to see that SBRE Brown is much more orange, and Brilliant Brown is just much more red, in my opinion. That's what I'm seeing. So, okay, and some of these are repetitious, but that'll just give you a glimpse, a chance to look at it there. Okay, so I did do the visual journal. Let's look at that. And things were going so good. I had a beautiful little tree here and some ridgeline, and it was so pretty, but it didn't take long for that to disappear. This ink is very, as you can tell from the water test, and even from the chromatography, it's ready to go. It doesn't stick around. So that's what happened. It just kind of washed out, and you could see the tops of my trees in the background there, but it's not necessarily disappointing. It's just not one that I would put at the top of my list for doing this Nick Stewart technique, you know, with the laying down the water and then taking your paintbrush and adding in paint. It just isn't as conducive to it, but you certainly can see the orange and the little reddish glow that happens, and it's very cool to do this, even when it turns out kind of funny. Okay, so next will be Tanzanite, and I'm looking forward to that one. I have been looking for a blue-black, and I do remember Kaweco Midnight Blue is not going away, even after being on a trip for 2 weeks and lots of things in my mind right now. I can't forget about that one. So I'm interested to see whether this, and this is indeed going to be Pelikan Edelstein Tanzanite. Let's see, I'm going to grab that. I've got the sample. I've got to be careful so that I'm telling you the right things. But here it is from Ink Journal. And it'll be our ink number 3, and that'll be coming next. So thank you very much for joining me on this little exploration of Brilliant Brown. Thank you for all the comments. It has helped me. I always learn more than I could ever probably convey when I do these videos. And let me know what you thought of Brilliant Brown. And we'll just keep working our way through. We're going to run out of our month before we run out of ink, I'm sure, because we have 2 more. And then we have the 2 that I've already done. Well, we have 3 more, but I'm already kind of like thinking about getting this ink in my pen today, and I'm trying to catch up on pen pal letters. So some folks are going to see some blue, and I have some brown to finish so today. So I'm going to be like using Brilliant Brown and Tanzanite today. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.